Okay, everyone, Wednesday the 24th of January, we had the self-proclaimed Celtic Daz on the channel this time yesterday. What would that make us, Ryan?
I don't know.
Just maybe we'll let the chat
The
decide.
young
Maybe that's
team.
a
I
bad
don't know, the young
idea.
team.
I'm already regretting asking the chat to describe us too. Morning, everyone. I hope you're all well. I hope you're in a good mood. Maybe we'll get a nice response in there. Maybe not. Yeah, we're back. We've got stuff to talk about. It is mainly outgoing stuff, but it's still interesting. We can maybe chat a wee bit about incoming stuff as well. This video is brought to you by MPH Group and Navien. MPH Group are Scotland's award-winning family-run all-trade specialists, and they cover mainland Scotland. If you're thinking of giving your home heating system a boost, they do have an enticing Boiler Winter Promotion featuring Navien, and you're talking top tier efficiency with them. You'll also be getting a free Navien Internet Controller. They offer flexible finance options so that you can cope with the chill and consider making a smart move with MPH and Navien. You're having some bad weather at the moment, Ryan, in Scotland, I believe.
Yeah, pretty much in the midst of two storms just now. There was a storm at the start of the week and then another storm a few days ago. So yeah, it has been pretty terrible weather. I've not really been going out of the house apart from if necessary. It's very, very windy, very rainy. Probably better where you are in terms of weather. It's probably like that anyway, 9 times out of 10. But it's the weather's not been great at the moment. Definitely not worth going out in.
Yeah, I hate to go down the weather tangent, but I was just when we were chatting about the cold weather there, I have heard a fair bit of moaning from people in Scotland that it's been pretty horrible. Apparently the game on Sunday was kind of pretty miserable as well, but obviously
First half was it cleared up in the second, but the first half was Celtic did well to navigate the tie given the circumstances, how bad the weather was just in general, but it cleared up in the second half. It's been on and off, but there has been weather warnings and potential that the transport has been disrupted. The last train on Sunday was at 7 o'clock. I believe they actually put that through the tannoy a couple of times. So yeah, it was a bit of a safety risk, but it seems as if the worst of it's gone now.
Yes, hopefully that's the case for all you. Someone like Paolo Bernardo certainly be loving the harsh Scottish winter. It's his birthday today, turns 22 today, which again made me feel really old for some reason, because he just kind of carries himself a bit older than that, and you need to maybe remind yourself that he is a very young player, so hopefully he has a good day. Right, Rocco Vata, will we tackle that first? That seems to be...
Yeah.
Judging off a quick glance I had on Twitter, or X as it wants to be known now, that seems to be the main kind of topic that Celtic fans are chatting about. His father, Rudi Vata, former Celtic player as well, of course, says that he doesn't feel his son is mature enough yet to leave Celtic for a club in another country. He was speaking on Irish Outlet Off the Ball, Rudi Vata, and he said of Rocco, he's 18 still, he's not mentally ready to move to another country. He wants to move, but I don't think he's got it. I don't think he's ready, which is kind of interesting. Talk about really playing to your son's strengths and talking him up. Different people taking different things from this. Vata Senior says that his son wants to play for Celtic, but that the club haven't made him an offer, and that seems to be in contrast to him saying that Vata Junior actually wants to move. So it's a bit of a strange one. There's also reports that Celtic are actually having negotiations now about a new deal. So what are you making of all this?
I thought the 3 minutes of what I watched with Rudi Vata was quite confusing, because he said one thing and then he said another thing a couple of minutes later. To begin with, you're right in saying that he said that he did say this. It came out of his mouth that Rocco wants to move, which makes you think that those comments from Brendan Rodgers have a wee bit of weight to them in terms of all the things that he can improve on. And then about a minute or so later, he's talking about the fact that he wants to stay and play for Celtic. He was saying that he can play for Real Madrid and Barcelona if he wants to, but it's up to Rocco Vata to show his potential. It was a very weird interview. I don't know if there was a bit of a language barrier. I know that he's been in Scotland for a few years. You can hear the sort of Scottish twang in his voice as he was speaking, but it's a bit of a weird one. And then with the rumours last night, or Anthony Joseph reporting last night that both sides were in talks, Vata's representatives and the club, it seems as if the door is closed on a transfer out the way. Celtic are keen to get him on a longer term deal, maybe to protect their assets, or maybe to introduce him into the first team. I know he played on Sunday for a bit and got his goal and looked quite impressive actually with some of the stuff that he was doing.
What was he doing well when he came on Sunday? Because I've never actually really seen him.
Just his physicality. I didn't expect him to be as physically imposing as what he was, because every time that he came on under Ange Postecoglou, he always looked tall, but he looked quite scrawny out on the wing. He looked as if he could maybe be pushed off the ball a bit easy. But when he came on, it seems as if he's bulked out. You know, the first time that the only player that I can sort of compare him to is when you seen Ryan Christie for the first time after he came back from Aberdeen, and he looked as if he'd put on a couple of kilos of muscle. And that could be the difference between being, from not getting in the team and getting in the team. That you need that physical side in order to compete in the Scottish League. You've got to be able to give it out as well as take it. And yeah, he looked physically impressive on Sunday. I know he was playing against Bucky Thistle, which is probably around about the level that he would have been playing at if he was playing against the B team. But I still think he was impressive. He's only 18 years old. I think it's better off keeping him around for a couple of years, see what he's like, and then maybe if he doesn't progress, then sell him, rather than that what if you send him away, maybe without a buyback clause, and then he becomes a good player for Como or Bologna or whoever's in from in Serie A and other leagues. So yeah, I've got no problem with him signing an extension. He's 18 years old. He's obviously got ambitions of playing at a higher level. That's absolutely fine. But do it for Celtic first and make Celtic some money. If you're gonna be leaving the club in a few years, let's see him progress in the first team and make an impact.
Well, his argument may be that he's not been given opportunities to play, so he wants to look elsewhere, and Celtic's argument may be that he has to bide his time a little bit more, or maybe show a commitment to Celtic to earn more time. So it may be a little bit of a standoff there. Mo from The Simpsons, this is strange comments indeed. Maybe it's a play at the club to offer him a better deal. I mean, I always, when you have kind of strange interviews like this, I always do question the motive. Why is Rudi Vata coming out and speaking at this point? I think if Rocco Vata was just going to leave Celtic, as I kind of thought was kind of nailed on, to be honest, would we have got an interview like that? I know there's Irish interest in him. He's going to hopefully be a Republic of Ireland international. He's a youth player for them at the moment, so off the ball are obviously an Irish outlet, so there is interest there. But they're obviously a big Celtic angle. Stephen asking quite a big question: is Vata actually any good? I would kind of suggest that we don't really know yet, because he's played a handful of minutes for the first team. Charlie saying Vata's agent are the problem, they want a payday, and just to give a flavour of the kind of whole feeling, love it, saying why would we worry about a prospect when our club should be more concentrated on spending cash on quality signings to help our team. So that's where we're at the moment. He's out of contract in the summer, is that correct? So this is going to have to be kind of sorted out relatively soon. What do you want to see happen here?
I want a new deal to be signed personally now. I think it's went on too long, and there's too many reports for anything else to happen. I would be quite annoyed if he was to leave the club now. I think there's a bit of interest in him. The fact that Italian teams are interested in him, and they were previously interested in players like Hickey, Lewis Ferguson, Josh Doig as well. They clearly see something.
Stephen Welsh.
Yeah, Stephen Welsh too. There's been other players too. I know Lagerbielke wasn't a youngster at Celtic, but he's a player at Celtic that's been linked to Serie A. There's clearly a player there in Vata to be nurtured and honed and made into a better player in the process. I just want to see some of Celtic's youngsters coming through and making their impact in the first team. I think that's something that maybe Brendan Rodgers could have done better in his first spell. I know he brought through Ralston and Calvin Miller as well. Tierney get his big chance. I know it was under Ronnie Dyler, but he became the player that he was because of Brendan Rodgers. I want to see the next generation come through and play under Brendan Rodgers and get that man management that he's so good at. Hopefully Vata can be that person. It looks as if his head's been turned, but the right way in terms of staying at the club, because I know there's been some attractive offers. Como's a good offer, because that would be Serie B, but it'd be first team football. I think he'd probably walk into that team. Bologna have a track record of working with young Scottish talents, regardless if they're playing for the Republic of Ireland or not. He's been based in Scotland for the majority of his life, so there's that track record, there's that portfolio. I just want to see him stay at the club and become a Celtic player, because his namesake was decent for Celtic. I want to see his son play for Celtic and get goals. I think he's only three off the total that his dad scored for Celtic, so that's something for him to work on. The only way he can do that is by staying at the club longer than the summer, unless he goes on a mad scoring run. But yeah, I want him to sign a new deal and be a Celtic player for many years to come.
His dad once shouted at me during a charity football match. Now, to be fair to him, I was maybe at fault for a goal that had just been scored, and it was against a Rangers kind of select team. It was kind of like a shot from the edge of the box that, one of those where I kind of dangled a leg out and it deflected it in past the goalkeeper. It wasn't an own goal, genuinely, but like I couldn't believe the competitive streak in Rudi Vata in a charity match. He turned around and he basically kind of shouted at me, and I'm not scarred at all by that. I'm definitely not bringing it up 6 or 7 years down the line or anything like that. So we'll see how that one plays out. Wombat saying, talking about Vata as nothing else on the transfer front. Pretty much, mate. Pretty much. That's where we're at the moment. We do have a bit of chat about Liel Abada, though. And in fact, you might be able to help me with this. Is this some chat about a potential... Is it a loan move? Stephen McGowan is this, reporting that Abada's attracting interest from teams in the likes of England, France and Germany, but for a loan move. I mean, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I don't understand that unless it's got a potential option to buy or an obligatory option to buy. He's just signed a new 5-year deal with the club. It was the 1st of September or something. It felt like a new signing, the fact that he stayed for a further 5 years. I know that's probably the biggest cliche in Celtic history, like a new signing. But he was like a new signing when he signed up, because really exciting young player. I think he was 20 years old at that point. He's turned 21. He's in fact, he might be 22 now. It's still so young for a footballer. So young in his career. There's clearly... There's some things that he cannot control whatsoever, and there's not going to be... I don't think there's going to be any sort of... I don't know, meeting in the middle between the two sides, unfortunately. So this is the way it's unfortunately going to be. I think he's been caught in the middle of it, if I'm being perfectly honest. That's very unfortunate for him. He's obviously going to have his allegiances, being from the place that he's from. But the way that the report was talking, it was like, we'll send him on loan for 6 months and see how the situation is going. I don't think the situation will change in 6 months. He's an asset for Celtic. I want to see him play for Celtic, due to the fact that he has signed that 5-year deal, and I think he's a potent finisher. He's a good attacker for the team, but at the same time, I don't think a loan deal makes any sense unless there's an option to buy. If Celtic can get a good fee for the player, I know they've got Kuhn in the door. They probably need to sign another player if Abada was to go, because I don't think they were accounting for Abada leaving the club in this window. Unless that was what Kuhn was for, like the direct replacement for Abada, but I don't know how many people would accept that, if the supporters would accept that, if they would call that a downgrade as well, due to the fact that he's a bit of an unknown quantity at Celtic. Yeah, it's a totally unique situation, and I don't envy him whatsoever for being in this situation, but it's something that needs to be resolved. Either he's going to be happy and stay at the club, or something's got to be sorted out in the remaining 6-7 days of the window. I just feel that there's no smoke without fire when these reports come out. The one from Stephen McGowan the other day or the other week, it was talking about internal pressure from Israel and Israel's players and Israel's manager on the player. There's no smoke without fire, and that'll be a lot of pressure, especially on a young guy's shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it, a week or so ago, and it was a strange article at the time from from Stephen McGowan. Yeah, it was. About what was going on at the club, and it kind of felt as if it arrived at a time when things were kind of being smoothed out a little bit. Rodgers had spoken positively about Abada and his happiness and all of that stuff, and then bang, this weird kind of article with not very much actual new information, or certainly tangible quotes arrived, but it kind of felt as if it was like there was something going on, because like these journalists don't just put out articles for the sake of it, believe it or not. Maybe some do, but certainly someone like Steve McGowan, he's maybe hearing things and he can't quite put a definitive point on the article, but he can just kind of drop something out because he reckons that's the way things are going. To me, loaning Abada out is just a complete non-starter. I would be stunned if that happened. I just think that would be... it would almost be trying to find a solution to a problem that isn't really there. I don't think there's a problem at all with Liel Abada at Celtic right now. I think Abada could, and I think he will play a big part. Between now and the end of the season. In the summer, potentially moves on, but he'll have been here 3 full seasons at that stage anyway. He was probably going to move on in the summer anyway, and maybe we get I think maybe 12 million, something like that. People may disagree with that, but I think that would be decent business for bringing him in. So that's where I'm at, but loaning him out, just I don't think is going to happen when we're in the midst of this title race. If it does happen, it suggests that there's something obviously kind of badly wrong there, and Abada's extremely unhappy. I mean, Max pointing out, or from Max's own viewpoint, straight up the tunnel after every game since he's been back. Is that the case, Ryan?
Yeah. He's one of these players that you look out for at the end to see if he was doing the ovation to the fans, and I couldn't see him whatsoever. I didn't see him walk up the pitch, but I didn't see him in that big group. It was only Abada that wasn't there. I don't want to cause any stories or that or anything, the fact that he's not in that group, but I feel like it is a point to bring up at the same time, because he usually was doing that and now he's not anymore. So something has potentially changed. You don't want to speculate too much, but at the same time, I don't know, is he not as happy at the club as what he was? Brendan Rodgers seemed to think that he was happy at the club. He took him out for lunch or something at Loch Lomond, which was really nice of the manager. Him doing his man management skills shows he's just a young boy as well, and he'll be thinking all sorts at the moment of what's happening, what's going on, where he's from, and what the supporters think as well. I don't want to go too deep into it, but it is a very difficult situation for Liel Abada, who's only 22 years old. I do feel for him in this situation, but I just hope that the best decision is made towards the end of this transfer window, or maybe even further on in the summer. But I'd love to see him at Celtic and stay at Celtic and be the player that we all know that he can be, because he's a dangerous weapon, especially in Celtic Rangers games. He's got that track record of playing with Kyogo as well. I think he's a player that unlocks Kyogo and makes him better in the process. So I'd much rather see him stay than go as well, much like Vata.
Tell you who'll be buzzing and hoping that he moves away, Mr. Borna Barisic across the city. He's given him a few bad memories over the past few seasons. Listen, I hope Abada stays. As I say, certainly now this summer we can address it again, but we cannot be losing any key players when we are right in the midst of a title race, and let's face it, aren't exactly strengthening the team so far this month. I know Kuhn has come in. Other than that, though, there has been nothing. Is there anything else going on? This may be a segment that may not make it past today, but Icelandic keeper news. Is there any more of that?
Yeah, Fabrizio Romano was tweeting this morning saying that Brentford looked to have got their man. I don't know how to pronounce the name exactly. You've thrown me on the spot there. Yeah, it's never been that. I've not remembered his name because it's never been that serious a target. It seems like, I think very early on in this window we knew that Celtic weren't going to be they weren't going to be targeting the goalkeeping position until at least the summer. I think, as I've said before on this podcast, there'll be a parting of the ways in the summer between Joe Hart and Celtic, and a new number one will be installed. Whether I would hope that Celtic would pay a good bit of money so that position is sorted for the next 3-4 years. As much as I don't really want to mention them on the other side of the city, they seem to have a solid goalkeeper that they've found. Jack Butland, he's been about the block for a bit now, but goalkeepers make the difference, and I think next season, I don't think Celtic can afford to have Joe Hart as a number one for another season. I don't think they'll give him a new deal to begin with, but I think a younger goalkeeper is needed because you will see the difference in the team. The defence can be strengthened, and it can be strengthened in that position and in left back. If you get a left back in the remaining 6-7 days, which is looking more and more unlikely by the day, it doesn't help that Owen Beck then played for Liverpool. But in the next 7
apparently
days,
Rodgers wasn't massively bothered about that. I think Keith Jackson was running quotes, and Rodgers apparently shrugged his shoulders or something like that when he found out about Beck. But I wouldn't expect him to have a breakdown or anything like that.
No, Valdemarson plunged with nuggets saying thank you very much for saying that. These names.
What's his first name, Ryan?
I'm not going to guess that one. I could Google it quickly, but I don't want it to be sitting in dead
Plunge.
silence.
What's his first name?
Noise. What is it? Sorry.
I'm asking Plunge what his first name is.
Plunge.
If he's still watching.
But yeah, left back and goalkeeper. Those were the two positions that I think we wanted to strengthen in the summer. They weren't strengthened in the summer. January, it doesn't look as if that left back position has been close to being strengthened yet, and that goalkeeping position will be next summer. So I tweeted out the other day saying that they're a year behind in schedule for a goalkeeper. I think last summer was the time to bring in a new goalkeeper and blood him in ahead of the next few years. So it looks as if Celtic will be playing catch up in that position, which is annoying. But Joe Hart, I think, has managed to stabilise himself since having that shaky form at the start of the season. I think he can do a job for the rest of the season, but in the summer that definitely needs to be looked at, and a replacement needs to be signed. Yes,
very good. Tony not with us today. Reason for that, he's actually in quite a bad place, sadly. Ayr, he's visiting today. Just let that one settle there. I can say that because I'm actually from Ayrshire. Apologies to any fellow Ayrshire people or people who reside in Ayr. But Tony's there today. Why is he there?
He's there because he's speaking to the new Ayr United manager, who's Scott Brown. Scott Brown's got his second role in management after the Fleetwood job. Yeah, he left there a few months ago, but he'll be at Somerset Park to see the unveiling of Celtic legend Scott Brown. Hopefully he does really well at Ayr United. He's already got a trip to Ibrox coming up in the next round of the Scottish Cup.
It's funny when I heard that. It's the first thing I thought. It's almost as if he's cherry picked. I actually feel a bit bad for him because Ayr are going to get scudded, let's be honest, and he's probably going to be in for a bit of a night of songs and all that stuff. But Ayr are a team that are really improving kind of off the pitch. They've hired some important people, like probably a number of years ago now, a couple of years, and really have aspirations to kind of move the club forward, both on and off the pitch. And Scott Brown is a huge appointment for them. When you think, Fleetwood Town didn't do a bad job there. I know obviously it didn't end well, but pretty decent first season. To go from Fleetwood Town to Ayr United is I'd say that's a pretty big coup for Ayr to get him in. And yeah, I think he'll do quite well. It's a really tough league, that though, the Championship. Really tough league, and if he doesn't succeed there, it's kind of tough to see where he goes. But I think he'll do a good job. What is doing a good job at Ayr, I guess, challenging for the playoffs, that kind of thing.
Playoffs, yeah.
I guess they want to be promoted at some stage, and you look in that league, Wraith are right up the top of there, so Ayr are a similar sized club to Wraith, I would say. Queen's Park have been there, so it'd be amazing if Scott Brown could get promoted.
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't go to Forest Green Rovers, if I'm being honest. I thought he was going to replace Troy Deeney when I heard that they were in for him in the 11th hour. Troy Deeney did not have a good spell at Forest Green whatsoever. One thing I would say about the Fleetwood time is that he certainly did a better job than his replacement in Lee Johnson, who didn't last very long.
He's already away, isn't he?
Yeah, it's Charlie Adam that's now in charge. They seem to be going down that Scottish route at Fleetwood Town. Yeah, I hope he does really well. It's a good job to cut his teeth into. Good to get him some Scottish management experience as well. If he does a good job, then he might get picked up by some of the Premiership teams. It's a consistent merry-go-round, and I think it was Lee Bullen that was there last time for United before he was sacked. He was in there for a good 2 years, so it's clear that they give managers that time to try and progress the team forward. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching their results. I'll definitely have the notifications on and seeing how they do. Hopefully can pull off a bit of a giant killing at Ibrox. That would be quite good to see. That'll be one that he'll be looking forward to. Don't know if he'll be expecting to go through in that game, but it's one that he'll probably circle on the calendar. That could be a potential one to really reignite Ayr, because in a lot of the comments I've heard that Ayr are a bit of a sleeping giant in football and they're waiting to sort of push up those leagues. I'd quite like to see that, and Scott Brown could be the person to do that.
There's certainly a team that are they're a support that come out when the team are really achieving something. I know you could probably say that about most teams, but their crowds do really go up. They've got quite a kind of big I don't know, fair weather support or whatever. Like fans will come up and they'll get a lot of kind of neutrals turning out as well if things are going well. So it'll be interesting to see how he does there. And all the best to Tony. Hopefully get some good quotes and gets back up the road nice and safe. Nowhere near the same trek as he had last week going up to Bucky. So does he just get sent places? Is that where are you in all this? You seem to be quite comfy right now.
Yeah, well, I'm in my house just now, but Tony's the reliable man. He'll go far and wide in order to get quotes and interviews from people. He is an absolute grafter. He's one of the best at it, and I think he was enjoying. I said to him last night, look, it'll be a good wee drive. I always liked driving to Ayr for uni when I went to UWS a couple of years ago. So it's a good drive for him. Those average speed cameras are a bit of a nightmare, but apart from that, it's a good drive. Hopefully he can get a couple of good quotes from the Celtic legend that's Scott Brown, and maybe that could be an avenue that Celtic go down in terms of sending loan players to. Yeah,
I was going to ask about that. Seamus and Hazel bringing that up. Yeah,
maybe more B team players. I'm trying to think if there would be any first team players that would make that jump. I don't know. Maybe James McCarthy wants to play a couple of games for Ayr. Did he not play in a? No, that was somebody else. The testimonial for the Ayr United one.
Tillio played in that one, didn't he? I mean, it's someone like Daniel Kelly would be a good fit for Ayr, I would say, at the moment. No?
Yeah, I mean, Ben Summers is playing for Dunfermline in the same league. I think he's playing quite a few games for them as well. So that's quite good. It's all about getting these exposure, but it has to be the right move at the same time. The end goal is for these young players, and I know it doesn't always happen this way, but the end goal is to get them in the Celtic first team. And in order to do that, sometimes it's better putting them maybe a level down, getting them game time, getting them acclimatised to senior football, and then coming back and potentially making an impact. If there's any players, then that could be a good avenue for Celtic to go down. They've got the link with Admin Avaca in the Austrian Bundesliga, the second division of the Austrian Bundesliga. They've got a couple of other clubs that they look to send players. They'll get players in the Premiership. That could be another avenue, maybe for some of the younger players to get their first taste of senior football. I wouldn't be complaining about that, because Scott Brown's worked with some of the youngsters before. I know it was a few years back, but he's got that experience of working within that same framework. If he could bring some of those players to Ayr, then I think there'd be no complaints.
Yeah, one to watch. Ross County on Saturday. They're not in a great place at the moment. They got battered, I think 3-0 from Partick Thistle in the Cup at the weekend. Yep. Their manager's making even more strange comments after criticising effectively the whole of Scottish football. He's now seemed to almost suggest that he wouldn't have taken the Ross County job with the benefit of hindsight. So they seem a bit all over the place. Pretty good opponents, I would say, for us this weekend. And we're just looking to kind of kick on, aren't we, and keep that momentum going. 3 points would be very nice.
3 points and a few goals would be absolutely brilliant. I definitely think you've got to take advantage of this when a team is off form, as Ross County are. It doesn't help when their manager seems to be shooting themselves in the foot at every corner. I thought his comments were extremely strange, talking about how Morecambe was a better level than some of the Premiership teams. It was a bad game that he was talking about. I think it was 1-0 Dundee won against Ross County, but at the same time, don't punch down the way. We've got enough people slagging the Scottish game. It doesn't help when a manager who's making his money in the Premiership is bemoaning the quality, especially when his side is near enough about the relegation zone. That's something that he needs to work on, rather than bringing the game down even more so. I thought it was really strange comments. He seems to be really struggling at the moment. Ross County have got a good couple of players. They really struggled in the last game against Celtic, but that was due to the fact that they were down to 10 men as well. But some of the numbers of that in that game were absolutely incredible. I was at that game in Dingwall, and it was so one-sided. It was 3-0 going on about 7 or 8 due to the 10 men, but also due to the fact that Palma came on and caused havoc for 20-25 minutes in the game. Yeah, it's a game that I think Celtic will have circled in the calendar as being one that potentially could get the goal difference up if they play well. Could be a good game to bring Kuhn on off the bench, maybe even start, depending on the Abada situation. But yeah, pretty confident that Celtic can go and get the job done on Saturday afternoon. By that time, Rangers will have played 2 games. They'll have played against Hibs, which is tonight, and then they'll have played against St Mirren away from home on the Saturday afternoon at lunchtime. So potentially could be back down to 2 points. You never know, they might drop points in one or both of these games that are coming up. But if it's down to 2 points, then it's pressure on Celtic, and they've just got to go and do the business, which is 3 points. You'd expect them to do so at home, but you can't take anything for granted in this league.
Yeah, we'll chat a bit more about it. Well, I will on Friday. You'll hopefully be back on tomorrow as well to chat about things, and hopefully a bit of transfer stuff to get excited about as well, because we really need a bit of that just to kind of get our teeth into. Just a wee name dropped in would be nice. A wee bit of reporting done, and as I say, someone to...
It's like Most Haunted. Give us a sign, any sign, please. Tell us you're here. We need a rumour or something. You would hope so. We have about 5, 6, 7 days left of the window. It's getting treacherous, doing your business late on. But hopefully Celtic man players in the door.
Yeah. Right, we're going ahead. Thanks everyone for tuning in to this one. Commenting away, liking the video if you have done that. People who watch afterwards as well. Really appreciate it. A few people saying about the length of the videos. I'm meaning to say this for a while. I'm getting the blame for this, Ryan. People are coming in and saying that it's my fault the podcasts are shorter. It's a directive that I've been given. I would love to stay and chat for hours and hours, but yeah.
We talked about this on Friday as well, shorter and sweeter as well, especially on days like these. I know it's not the winter break anymore, but we're still building up to the first Premiership game back. It's difficult to talk for an hour about things, especially when Celtic aren't giving you an hour's worth to talk about in terms of news. Yeah. So yeah, shorter and sweeter. I think the half an hour shows definitely work better at the moment. And yeah, when there's more news, we'll direct more time to them. But at the moment, half an hour is perfect.
Yeah, I'd get the blame for anything, I would, but I'm used to that in life. Anyway, I still love you all. You're all legends, and amazing to have everyone, involved again in the live chat today. Back, as I say, tomorrow. I don't know exactly who's on. I won't be, and there'll be plenty to talk about as well. Maybe even hear about Tony's trip to glorious air. Right, thanks everyone. Speak to you soon.